That's right. Next up, we have Professor Venu Mehta, our wonderful colleague at Claremont School of Theology, who also teaches in the Engaged Jain Studies master's degree program that we collaboratively teach. And the title of Professor Mehta's talk is Exploring Forgiveness as a Path to Compassion in Action in the Jain text, Uttarādhyayanasūtra, a text we've heard a lot about already in this short time in the conference. Professor Mehta, we welcome you to the stage. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Miller. And it's really lovely to follow a guru and to be a disciple. So it's really lovely to present after Dr. Long. Jain and Andrea, good morning, esteemed scholars, colleagues, and distinguished guests. It's an honor to present at the third annual Engaged Jain Studies Conference, particularly under the theme of Compassion in Action. I extend my gratitude to the Arihanta Institute for organizing this very important gathering. Today, I'm going to talk, today I will explore the concept of forgiveness as found in the Uttarādhyayanasūtra, one of the oldest Jain texts. My presentation seeks to answer a crucial question. How do we learn what an ancient Jain text teaches about forgiveness? To address this, it is important to move beyond simply identifying where the term kshama, forgiveness, or kshamapana, asking for forgiveness, appear in the text. While these words do explicitly indicate forgiveness, limiting our study only to this instances risk missing the broader ways in which forgiveness is embedded within the monastic and ethical teachings of Jainism. In particular, chapter 29 of Uttarādhyayanasūtra, titled Samat Parakama, or exertion in righteousness, is often cited as the primary discussion on forgiveness. However, if we assume that forgiveness is relevant only when it is explicitly named, we overlook its deeper and more nuanced presence throughout the text. Forgiveness in Jainism is not confined to interpersonal reconciliation. It is deeply tied to self-discipline, patience, compassion, and karmic purification. Thus, my approach in this talk is not just to trace where forgiveness is mentioned explicitly, but to examine how it is conceptualized in different contexts. As forgiveness appears in multiple dimensions in the text of Uttarādhyayanasūtra, this method helps us understand that forgiveness itself is compassion in action. I will begin by contextualizing Uttarādhyayanasūtra as a pedagogical text for young ascetics before moving into four key aspects of forgiveness as they appear in the text. These four aspects are forgiveness as self-discipline, vinaya, forgiveness as endurance in the face of hardship, parishaha, that is overcoming affliction and troubles, forgiveness in confession and spiritual purification, pratikramana, in chapter 9, forgiveness as means of overcoming the passion, that is anger, pride, and deceit, which very well Parveenji mentioned in his keynote talk. Finally, I will examine the stories of King Nami and King Sanjaya, which offers two distinct yet powerful narrative models of forgiveness in action. These stories reveal how forgiveness manifests in different ways, either through detachment and self-conquest, as in Nami's case, or through moral awakening and transformation, as in Sanjay's story. The Uttarādhyayanasūtra is one of the Mool Sutras of the Shvetambara Jain tradition, composed in Ardhamagdi Prakrit. It consists of 36 lessons, chapters of lessons, each covering different aspects of Jain doctrine, monastic discipline, and ethical conduct. According to Jacobi, the Uttarādhyayana serves as the training manual for monks, instructing them in their principal duties, commanding an ascetic life by precept and examples, and warning against the danger of spiritual deviations. However, while this text is primarily aimed at young ascetics, it is important to recognize that it also contains teaching relevant for lay practitioners. Forgiveness, as discussed in this text, is not limited to monastic life, but serves as a guiding principle for all Jain adherents, whether they are monks renouncing the world or lay people engaging with ethical living. For my analysis, I have also consulted the vritti, or the commentary on the sutra named Sukhabodha by Devendra Gani, also known as Nemi Chandra Suri, composed in the year 1123 CE. In Uttarādhyayanasūtra, forgiveness is deeply connected to the practice of self-discipline or Vinaya. Rather than viewing forgiveness merely as a reaction to external conflict, the text frames it as an internal process of self-restraint. One of the verses in the chapter 1 states, if a monk by chance does anything mean, he should never deny it. But if he has done it, he should say, I have done it. If he has not done it, I have not done it. The verse highlights honest self-examination as the foundation of forgiveness. True forgiveness requires admitting one's faults and not restoring to denial or justification. Next, the verse 1.14, that is 1.14, that reads this way, he should not speak unasked, and asked he should not tell a lie. He should not give away to his anger, but bear with indifference, pleasant and unpleasant occurrences. This particular verse underscores the importance of truthfulness, measured speech, and emotional control. By instructing that one should not give way to anger, the verse suggests that true forgiveness is not just about pardoning others, but about cultivating equanimity within oneself. The next word expands on this theme by focusing on the challenge of self-conquest, by saying, subdue yourself, for the self is difficult to subdue. If your self is subdued, you will be happy in this world and in the next. The verse highlights that the true struggle is internal. Forgiveness and patience emerge from mastering one's own thought and emotions. If we move to the second point, forgiveness as endurance in the face of hardship, parishaha, a second important dimension of forgiveness is this, that is a role of enduring suffering without retaliation. This comes in the second chapter of the sutra. One of the verses states, if a layman abuses a monk, he should not grow angry against him, because he would be like a child. A monk should not grow angry. If a monk hears bad words, cruel and rankling ones, he should not silently overlook them and not take them to heart. A monk should not be angry if beaten, nor should be therefore entertain sinful thoughts. Knowing patience to be the highest good, a monk should meditate on the law, that is dharma. Here, forgiveness is framed as a form of endurance and spiritual resilience. Jain monks are instructed not to retaliate even when insulted or attacked. This principle extends beyond monastic life, reinforcing the Jain ideal of non-violence or ahimsa in both thought and action. Their inaction of not to retaliate is equivalent to practice patience, that is forgiveness. Also, verse 12 and 13 from chapter 3, Chaturanga, that is 4 requisite states, the pious obtain purity, and the pure stands firmly in the law. That is again dharma. The soul afterward reaches the highest nirvana, being like unto the fire fed with ghee. Leave off the causes of sin, acquire fame through patience. A man who acts up to this will rise to the upper regions after having left this body of clay. Here, patience, the word for the patience is khanti, and it is praised as a way to liberation. Forgiveness in confession and spiritual purification, that is exertion in righteousness, that comes very well in chapter 29 of this text, Uttarādhyayanasūtra. And this chapter is one of the structured. It provides one of the structured discussion of forgiveness. It describes the practice of pratikramana, that is repentance and confession of sins. I would particularly like to focus on the seventh topic, that Jina Mahavir discusses, begging for forgiveness. And when questioned about the benefit of begging for forgiveness, Jina Mahavira replies, by begging of forgiveness, one obtains happiness of mind. Thereby, one acquires a kind of disposition towards all kinds of living beings. By this kind of disposition, one obtains purity of character and freedom from fear. Another crucial verse from the same chapter strengthens the link between forgiveness with passions and endurance. Verse 46 reads, by passion, and again the word used for patience is kanti or kshanti, that is patience or forgiveness. One overcomes trouble. Now, let me move to the second part of the talk, which is I'm going to discuss two very interesting narratives from the text Uttarādhyayanasūtra. They both are similar, but they are performing and acquiring forgiveness with different approaches. Jains often use narratives as powerful tools to convey ethical and spiritual ideals, demonstrating how key virtues such as forgiveness and passions are embodied in historical and legendary figures. The stories of King Nami and King Sanjaya that appear in chapter 9 and chapter 18 serve as two distinct yet complementary models for forgiveness in action or compassion in action. While both kings ultimately renounce worldly attachment, their paths to forgiveness differ. One exemplifies self-mastery and detachment, while the other embodies moral awakening and transformation. These narratives reveal different dimensions of forgiveness, illustrating how it functions as both a proactive choice and a response to realization. So what is the story of King Nami? King Nami, once a celestial being, is reborn as a powerful ruler. Despite his status, he reflects on the impermanence of worldly pleasures and remembers the transitory nature of past lives, realizing that power, wealth, and physical enjoyment are fleeting. He chooses to renounce his kingdom and embrace the ascetic path. As Nami embarks on the journey, Indra or Sakra, the king of gods, appear in disguise to test his resolve. Indra argues that the true ruler or a king should build fortresses and armies to protect his people, punish criminals and maintain order, expand his dominion through conquest, enjoy the pleasure of royal life as a reward for his position. Nami, however, rejects this temptation, demonstrating unwavering wisdom and self-control. He declares that true strength lies in mastering oneself, not in ruling over others. He asserts that the greatest victory is the conquest of one's own desires. True power is found in faith, restraint, and patience and truth. Wealth, physical pleasures are like poison, leading to suffering and downfall. Seeing King Nami's unshakable wisdom, Indra abandoned his disguise, revealed his divine form, and bows in reverence to Nami, acknowledging his spiritual superiority by stating, "Bravo for your simplicity, O saint, bravo for your humility, O saint, bravo for your perfect patience, bravo for your perfect liberation." Again, here the word kanti, which is from where we have the word krama, patience, is foregrounded. It is important to recall that Indra's praising King Nami for his kanti or patience is lauded as the quality and characteristic of pure soul and law, dharma in Jainism. Nami's determination to the spiritual or ascetic path is embarked by patience. Now, let's move to the second story of King Sanjaya. King Sanjaya, in contrast to Nami, begins his journey as a warrior king, deeply engaged in hunting and warfare, as you can see in the picture. One day, while hunting in the Kesara Park, he chases a frightened deer and kills it near a meditating ascetic. The act of violence near a holy figure fills him with sudden fear and remorse. So he's not fearful because he's killing an animal. Right now, he's fearful because he is killing. He was about to shoot to an ascetic. Realizing the gravity of his actions, Sanjay dismounts, bows at the feet of the ascetic, and begs for forgiveness. However, the ascetic remains deeply absorbed in meditation and does not respond immediately. The silence terrifies Sanjay, as he believes the ascetic's wrath could destroy him. When the ascetic finally speaks, he does not curse Sanjay, but instead offers wisdom, teaching him that life, power, and beauty are as fleeting as lightning. Wealth, relationship are temporary, and death eventually separates all being from their possessions. The only true wealth is spiritual wisdom. The words profoundly transform Sanjay, realizing the emptiness of his violent lifestyle. He renounces his kingdom and military pursuits and taking initiation as a Jain monk under the guidance of teacher Gardabhali. And this story exemplifies forgiveness as a powerful awakening. I think I might be running out of time. Let me see. Oh, no.
You still have 4 or 5 more minutes.
Okay, okay. I saw a comment, but then, okay. So he learns the value of compassion through remorse, which is very different than how King Nami was already there, right? But then again, he passes the test of the temptations. So while Sanjay ultimately he chooses a path of non-violence and renunciation. So I try to, put a kind of a comparative chart between the two different paths and models of how these two kings reaches to forgiveness. Because we are often, as we have been discussing today, that there are different paths to compassion, different ways how we understand compassion, but ultimately the compassion, forgiveness is the goal where we need to reach. So if you look at the difference between these two stories, we can see that the starting point are different, like reflective king and warrior king. The trigger point, the path are the more important part, which is self-discipline or moral awakening by teaching from the gurus or professors or mendicants, monks, and then the outcome is obviously for the case of Nami, spontaneous renunciation, and for Sanjaya is like guided transformation. These two narratives they offer very distinct models of realizing forgiveness. However, they both work as one unifying goal. Well, I'm reaching to the conclusion of my presentation then. What I try to discuss today is that forgiveness in Uttarādhyayanasūtra is not just a virtue, it is an active discipline, a method of self-purification, and a path to liberation. Whether expressed through ascetic endurance, confession, or renunciation, forgiveness remains at the heart of a Jain spiritual life. And so thank you very much. And I would like to share one thing which I have experienced and learned after working on compassion, and thanks to Rihanta for that opportunity throughout the past year and more than a year, that we need to be highly compassionate to work on the subject of compassion. Because our critical thinking might lead us to a very practical, logical, questions and answers, but ultimately our goal is to be really compassionate by heart, leaving aside any other, pragmatic or practical doubts. So thank you very much. And I would now, I guess, stop my sharing.
Thank you so much to our dear colleague there, Professor Venu Mehta, for a wonderful talk. I enjoyed following through the Compassion Studies Initiative, all your work. You've done other work as well. You've taught a course for us. You've given another talk, and Uttarādhyayanasūtra seems to often take the stage here, and I really appreciate that you have given us some bits of wisdom here, and particularly on forgiveness. I know you've been working on forgiveness quite a bit. There is a question here from Chaitanya, one of our graduate students, who says, Jai Jinendra, how might the Uttarādhyayanasūtra's practices of pratikramana and parishaha inform modern psychological approaches to processing trauma in our modern world and healing relationships through compassion?
Oh, good question, Dr. Rajamani. And we have been discussing the question in our class on forgiveness in Christianity and Jainism as well. Well, I'm not an expert in health, health or psychology, but from a individual's point of view in a day-to-day life, if we are very close to our spiritual inquiries and experiences, then I guess by starting slowly practicing these things, for example, enduring of pain, can definitely help us towards healing relationships and what is that another point? And processing trauma. So even if we sometimes, I'm just using some examples that I have seen in my family, and extended family and friends, that those who consult, external help, eventually they need to help themselves. And I guess teachings like this from Jainism and even other religious tradition can really help, um, access those kind of ease at least, and then eventually kind of a complete relaxation from any sort of trauma, and then building or rebuilding reconciliation of relationship through compassion. So that's all my answer would be.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you so much. And especially from speaking from your own personal experience, I think part of what we do in engaged Jain studies is bring the personal into the intellectual realm. So I also see Eileen Harrington says, thank you, Professor Mehta. Here's a question for you. So a lot of what you talk about here, I love how you bring together philosophy and narrative so well. You intertwine them here, the principles, and then also some stories to kind of flesh out what it is that it is you're trying to say. One of some of the themes of forgiveness, I wrote some down here: tolerance of abuse, violence, experiencing violence without retaliation, having patience, this kind of forbearance. This is something I think that's hard, probably, especially for a non-Jain audience, perhaps to accept in everyday life, and perhaps not also because it makes me think of things in comparative theology of like turning the other cheek. If one side is, if someone hits you, offer them the other side to hit you again instead of retaliating back, right? So can you say a little bit more to our audience, especially those who are not Jain perhaps, about this notion of kind of just accepting from a Jain karmic perspective abuse? Like, what would that mean? And then also, if you think about it from a secular perspective with, like, for example, notions of guru abuse, right? If you're being abused by a guru, what would the Jain response be to that? These are difficult questions that I think through on my own, with forgiveness, with regard to forgiveness. And I'm curious, yeah, how you might respond to that.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. This is a great question, and particularly in this present time, in the way we are through news media, social media, where everybody is enjoying, like, a reaction to this. And, whenever we open social media, we see that abolished in seconds. Earlier, it was like abolished in one reply. And we enjoy this. People enjoy that. Like when I say we, meaning people are enjoying this. But while Jain tradition, and I would have to reply, and these are like very lay kind of replies and not very scholarly ones. But in the Jain tradition, the basic structure of karma theory is that while you're working on removing your old karma, either good or bad, which might, and for that, why even good karma, right? You remove. It's for that we need to learn more about how liberation is connected to the karma theories and metrics. But then you're also working on not building, negative karma. You don't let the negative karma come to near to your soul, stick to your soul. So retaliation, responding angrily, and participating and in this negative conversation will end up into building more karma, and you're just then circling back and back. You're there in the loop. You're never getting out of that. So that is the point why even the mendicants are being told that, look, taught by Lord Mahavira, that you don't get angry. Why do you want to do that? And there was a particular phrase that consider those disciples or lay people as child, right? Children who are not, who might have less understanding of how to behave. So it's okay, forgive them, right? And Dr. Miller, what was your another question regarding guru?
Yeah, I was just giving that as an example, and I think that you have
Yes.
given other examples. So I think you've answered my question, and mainly for the audience to understand that this is connected to the notion of karma. You don't want to retaliate because from the Jain perspective, that would just create more karma for yourself.
Yes, definitely. So our own personal experience that I think me, yourself, other professor around our different institution, we always see certain remarks and engagement. But when we really embraces the Jain philosophy of non-retaliation and rather conversation, Dr. Long talked about conversation. We don't talk outside our bubbles. So our guru-ness is also our bubble, right? So if we get out of that, and so that might be solving a kind of a question in a secular world.
Yeah, the nonviolent communication that we talked about in the previous talk. Yeah, that's a good point. One final question, and it's something that I would know we've talked about elsewhere, but there's also this wonderful cultural practice within the Jain tradition of, we might say, compassion through forgiveness. And I think that is, and this question just came from Dinesh Jain in the chat. Would you explain more on the practice of forgiveness by the Jain laity? And this is where I'm going with this. In particular, I'm thinking about Paryushan and how we ask for forgiveness during that time. Do you want to say a little bit about that lay practice?
Yes, definitely. So it is for both mendicants and lay. It's not just only for the lay people that during the Paryushan and Samvatsari, after the Samvatsari Pratikramar, which is annually. Well, it is not only annually. Jains, mendicants or lay people can do it every day, weekly, fortnightly. And if you miss all these three opportunities because of some of your work, then for lay people, there's definitely an opportunity, and it is highly recommended that you perform the annual Samvatsari Pratikramana, in which you reflect on yourself, reflect throughout the year what incorrect and faulty things, or painful things you have caused to others, not only to fellow human being, but from one sense jeev to the five sense jeev, that is non-human being. And then you repent, you confess, and then you resolve that you would not repeat this again. And that way, you are not only asking for forgiveness, but you're resolving for your own soul. So there were questions about that Jainism is only for our own soul and not for others. But you can we ever cool down and help our soul without not hurting someone else? I don't think it is humanly possible. So pratikramana, forgiveness, kshamapana divas, or asking for kshamapana, is the way we can really revisit the entire process. And it's coming annually, so it's 365 days are that too long, but yet it gives us opportunity to reflect on that and then ask for forgiveness.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you so much for your thorough questions here. We are going to transition, I think, into the next panel in a moment here, but Professor Mehta, I just want to thank you once again for participating in the Compassion Studies Initiative. You're such a wonderful colleague to work with, and there's always something new from the Uttarādhyayanasūtra text that we all hear. So yeah, thank you for elaborating on that so much, and for being here with us today. Really appreciate it.